Castlevania is big business right now. Konami really do seem to be showing the world that they still care about this franchise, giving us two rather incredible collections of games, as well as a couple of other extra download titles that pretty much cover the entire spectrum. Maybe you're a more linear guy, enjoying games like the classic 8-bit and 16-bit titles. Perhaps you're more of a Metroidvania type chap or chapette that likes to explore the castles at your own leisure, building up your characters to eventually take on the final boss. Or perhaps you have done it all already. You've gone even further and finished the obscure MSX and home computer games and ports, the arcade games, and the very controversial 3D titles. Well, if you are one of those people that has completed all of this, then never fear, because I, DJ Slope, is here to give you all 15 Castlevania games that will please all types of Castlevania fans, and for the most part, every single one of the games mentioned in this video are ready to play right now. Links can be found in the description. We got a lot to get through here, guys, so without further ado, let's get on with number 1. Castlevania Remade in Unreal is, well, it's Castlevania made in Unreal. Imagine that first game made by the folks at Frozen Byte, you know, the guys that made Trine, and voila, this is what you got. I wouldn't go as far as saying that this is what I would want to see officially be done for the franchise, but as a fan project, I very much appreciate this. It's actually really nicely done. You've got great lighting, great shadow effects, it feels really good to play when compared to the original, and as stated, all of these games, unless otherwise stated, can be found using the links in the description. That link will then take you to the creators Deja Wolf's itch.io page, which as stated, does have the download, but sadly in this instance, all development on this fan game has stopped since 2016 due to a cease and desist. I mean, come on, it's understandable. It's the exact same game, but with different graphics. Thankfully, Konami allowed for this one to be left up for fans to enjoy. Another game that at first glance seems very similar to the originals and nothing more is Castlevania, oh my god, okay, Kyuketsuki no Kirachimu, okay, yep. However, play it for a few minutes and you will realise that this is very much Castlevania 2 on speed. After you've grabbed your knife, what follows next is a much faster and less Castlevania to control game that feels more like a Contra game or a Metal Slug game than any kind of Castlevania game. Now again, as this is a fan game, none of this is a bad thing, it's just different, and that's what we're here for, right? Different games that take those original assets and turns them into something new. As the game goes on, it gets harder and harder, however, it is pretty forgiving with the amount of lives and stuff it gives you, because no matter how many times you die, you will be able to carry on quite easily, allowing you to get quite far into this one if you give it enough time. It's definitely worth checking out this Contravania style game. Oh, they're not gonna like that. Next up, let's take a look at the original game in the third dimension with GZ Doom mod of the original NES game Simon's Destiny. As you can see, this remake is utterly fantastic. Using that fan-made Doom engine, the creator, Batandi, has completely redone the game in its entirety. And to this day, people are still downloading it, commenting on it, and playing it. An utterly fantastic new way to play the classic game for fans that think they know it back to front. Moving away from the original game and into the realm of Simon's Quest, we have the Transylvania adventure of Simon's Quest, a stunning game that is, at least during the making of this video, constantly getting worked on and also has a rather large fan base behind it. The game is a parody homage to those original games, and honestly, the amount of little extras added by Travis is unreal. Looking at the comments, it seems that this game, although right now is very much a fan game, it will eventually become a full game. And in his latest interview with the completionist, he goes on to explain that although he is essentially a one-man team, the game is currently about 65% complete. Get the demo now and make sure to follow this guy, as every update seems to offer plenty of small updates that Castlevania fans really seem to like. Residentvania is a project that Grizzly and I showed off a few weeks ago on the Slopescast podcast, link below if you want to go check that out on all major podcast platforms and streaming services. But this is essentially Resident Evil Village, a game that I absolutely adored, mixed together with Castlevania. I mean, it works perfectly, right? In Resident Evil, for the most part, you are exploring a big old mansion, it's spooky, it involves you going back and forth to complete said challenges. It's everything that it needs to be in order to be a great Castlevania game, but it's not. Until now. OCO has brilliantly turned the very first part of the Resident Evil Village game and turned it into a Castlevania type game, with the walking up to the castle gates and everything. What's not to love here? Fingers crossed this one does actually get finished, which sadly most projects like this simply just do not. Regardless, if you have a spare 5 to 10 minutes, it's a cool little download to experience for yourself. Okay, now this one is utterly fantastic. Starting off as a demake to Simon's Quest, yes, a demake, this ZX Spectrum game would actually end up becoming its own game entirely. Castlevania Spectral Interlude is not only a really good representation of a classic Castlevania game, but it's also one of the best looking games for the ZX Spectrum. Going to show that even though it's a seriously old piece of kit, the community behind this little system is still going strong with this. A Castlevania game that has over 150 screens, 10 unique enemies and bosses, 2 difficulty levels, a story that actually works with the original canon, and come on, would you listen to that soundtrack? This is all Spectrum perfection. Now here's one that I am sadly unable to find an official itch.io or website to download. I'm sure you can find it if you look hard enough, but at this point I'm sure it's been taken down, so yeah, no link from me for this one. Either way, CastleVania Fighter is an MUGEN created game which is essentially a fan-created engine from 1999 that allows fans to create 2D fighting games using classic 2D sprites. And no, I don't know what MUGEN stands for. In fact, it looks to me that the creators of this game engine forgot themselves. Regardless, as the Castlevania series is full of some of the best looking 2D sprite work going, this game is essentially a boss rush mode of nothing but Castlevania assets. Imagine the game Alien Soldier, but done in a Castlevania setting, and voila, this is what you got. Personally, I much prefer the leveling up of your character until you are slightly overpowered style of gameplay before going up against that final boss in the game. But still, this is a fantastic way for fans to use different characters from different games to take on a huge variety of bosses and or each other. Okay, so this one is slightly outside of fan game territory and probably one of the most obscure, but stick with me with this one. You know what the Castlevania series is? I mean, if not, why are you even watching this video? But what you may not know about is the Toho series, a series of mostly bullet hell games, created by just one guy that has in itself garnered a pretty niche but very loyal fan base. Now, even though bullet hell games are the vast majority of the Toho series, they do have a few spin-off games that mess around with the genre too, including a game heavily inspired by Symphony of the Night. In fact, rather than calling it a Metroidvania, fans have adopted the term Toho Vania, as it merges gameplay elements from Symphony of the Night, but makes sure that you also put those platforming elements to good use by giving the enemies projectiles that are familiar to a typical bullet-hell genred game. It's a mashup that doesn't sound like it would work, but it actually definitely does. If you know me, I don't really care for the hardcore amounts of story found in these types of games that force you to absorb it all, but gameplay wise, Koumajou, Densetsu, Scarlet, Symphony, yeah, let's go with that, are both really interesting fan projects that actually turned out to be standalone titles, with an HD remaster of the original game coming soon to Switch and PC. Guys, I'm just like you, annoyed that no one's ever mixed the world of Castlevania and My Little Pony together. Yeah, Ponyvania, Order of Equestria, is finally here, a game that, well, mixes Castlevania and My Little Pony together and creates a parody of the awesome Castlevania Order of Equestria. As far as I can tell, it's pretty much finished at this stage, and although I gotta say I haven't given it much time myself, it's actually quite well done. Credit where credit's due. Heck, you can even make your own My Little Pony character in a rather impressively detailed pony generator, if you want. The original Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse is one of the most overlooked games in the series. However, besides Rondo of Blood, it actually ended up being one of the main influences for Symphony of the Night, one of the most well loved in the series. And after playing the more recent Metroidvania-esque games, you can really see the roots of those games in this earlier NES title. Because of this, even though it's often dismissed, it's actually got a bit of a loyal fan base, including George D. Fuentes, who actually started a full reworking of the original game using a graphical style that's a lot more similar to the 16-bit Super Castlevania 4-like titles. The end result is utterly stunning and a real pleasure to play. Sadly, like many fan projects, this one eventually got cancelled. Either way, as always, the demo, or to be more specific, the work in progress, can be found down below, and even though it's not finished, it really does not disappoint. We've covered a lot of different games in this list, but if you are one of those out there that wants more Tiger LCD Castlevania games in your collection, look no further than the Castlevania Dracula LCD Chronicles DX, which is not a demake of every game found on this collection, but it's a demake that has got to be the most pointless demake imaginable, but at the same time, brilliant that anyone actually ever decided that this would be a good idea. The grating bleeps and bloops and limited movement is all found with this demake. I truly am lost for words as to why someone would ever want to make this, yet, hey, they did, and they did it to completion, so, you know, again, credit where credit's due, I suppose. Here's a couple of the more well-known Castlevania fan games. The Lecarde series are a couple of games made by a small group of Paris fanboys that aim to give the original NES titles their own spin by adding new characters, new animation, new mostly everything, but keeping it in the same world as Castlevania. Now that new style may not exactly win over everyone, it's made by Europeans and the art style looks very, very European, as if it was done in a slightly better version of MS Paint and then got over with a nice pixel shader. Honestly, that may sound like I'm ragging on this thing, but I'm not. It's a unique style, and as you have and will be seeing in this video, unique styles are very much not the norm. And it's because of that, I commend this crew. The platforming feels great, the gameplay feels great, the translation and story is a little bit but everything else feels like the original games for the most part, and it feels even better in the sequel. If you want to try something but at the same time play an old style of game that feels like the originals, then this is a definite recommendation. Castlevania The Seal of the Curse is worth mentioning due to the amazing art style that's so incredibly unique to this fan game, and this fan game alone. It's a very stiff game, which is a lot more noticeable in this than some of the earlier titles, that's for sure, and its gimmick is very much its day and night change up, which brings on the bad guys depending on what time of the day you're in. It's a really cool game that honestly I don't see myself playing too often, but again, how could I not, with its very own renditions and overly dark design as well as its super gory enemies. Honestly, it's the closest thing I've seen to a true horror game in this franchise. Now, perhaps you want something like the originals yet again, and if that's so, Castlevania Hell's Lullaby is a game that follows in the storyline department after the third game, but has a far more linear structured gameplay style similar to that first game. And honestly, not much else needs explaining. It's as simple can be. It feels, I would say, 90% accurate to the original games, and hey, for a fan game, that's good enough for me. Get this if you really want more of the same. And finally, if you want something completely insane, then the OpenBOR engine, as in the engine that was popularised by the classic Streets of Rage fan game Beats of Rage, I present to you Silver Knights Crusade. Now, obviously, even though the OpenBOR engine is very versatile with its gameplay styles, its roots are more obviously brawler based, and it's because of that that Silver Knights Crusades is a lot more arcade action heavy than anything you would typically find in a standard Castlevania game. This linear experience is brutal, stunning but overly brutal. Well worth experiencing, of course, due to the controls feeling super tight, but goddamn, this one is a toughie. The world of Castlevania works wonders in this style of game, and I'm surprised that Konami never made one. Well, I suppose they kind of did with the 16-bit generation of games, but this fan game really does show what they could do with that style if they went crazy with it on newer hardware. And there you have it, guys. A bit of a smaller video whilst I work on some of the bigger ones, but I've actually wanted to do this for quite some time, and well, honestly, I actually spent quite a bit of time playing these games. There are some real hidden gems out there in the fan game community, and like I said, all the links that I've mentioned in this video will be down below. If there's any I've missed, please let me know. Again, in the comments section, don't add links because YouTube will instantly block it, but you know, tell me what the games are, maybe give a little description. I tried to be as varied as I could here because there are 1,000 games that look exactly like the first game with very little done. But yeah, I feel like these are 15 noteworthy and standout fan games here that are definitely worth checking out, like I said. And also, hey, if this video takes off, then perhaps maybe I'll do a maybe a Metroid one, or a Streets of Rage, or I don't know, maybe even a Sonic or a Mario. You know, the sky is the limit. Let me know again what you would want to see in this sort of fan game mini video down below. But anyway, again, thanks for checking out the video. This is the part of the video where I'd like to give a massive shout out to all of my Patreons and YouTube members, with an extra big shout out going to Overjal Zane, 8-Bit Gamer, Ian Quill, Nightwheel, Samuel Nilsson, Matt Jackson, Josh Gibbons, That Gamer, Arista, Dina81, Shade Silence, Mind of the Unsane, Stephen, Cheshire One, Vike Echo, The Cunning Linguist, Man of God 9000, Vitus Varnus, Luke Jorgensen, Aggro Crag, James, Diggsy B, Michael Ridley Dash, The Action Saxon, Christopher Devero, Roll VP, Jay is Manchild, Daniel Tarares, Clan Bob, Mike Fallon, Nicholas Bertner, Taylor Rainwater, Dalton, Jabba Al Aiden, Benjamin Guy, Man Shovel, Chris the Shapeshifter, Aaron Gorman, Big Rico, Richard Alderjig, Shadow Dragon, Ryan Holtz, Wobbles and Bean, The Wonder Ducks, Game Apologist, Dina, Lucas Softail, Intrigued Gaming, Ye Old Hamburglar, Jeff Mianowski, Solix Captor, Rovan Army, Jeremy Rodriguez, Tim Lunn, Nick Pollard, Bram Perez, Gary Pinkett, Pretendo64, Conrad Constantine, Andrew Dalton, Retro to Next Gen aka Lou, King Link Reviews, Todd Paul Flo G, and of course Tim Labonte. Thank you to all of you guys for supporting the show as much as you do. Like I said, it always allows me to create videos like the ones you're seeing here pretty much weekly, and again, I can't thank you guys enough. So until next time, guys, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.